Let's start.
Do I start?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Thank you everybody for being present here today. The talk is organized by the Global Brahmin organization. Both historically and in contemporary milieu, the Brahmin community has been special target of anti-Hindu forces, which I call 3M forces. It is very painful to watch the Brahmin community delegitimized, mocked, ridiculed, and attacked mercilessly for no plausible reason whatsoever. The community's livelihood is being snatched away on frivolous grounds. In the larger Hindu activist umbrella, issues of the direct implications to the Brahmin community often take a back seat. We wish this organization the idea is to organize the community to build the global ecosystem of deliberation, advocacy, sport, service, and welfare, while remaining part of the larger Hindu umbrella. Today's topic is Maharaj Libel case. The Bollywood has and is being used to caricature, demonize, and demean Brahmins. It has repeatedly tried to dehumanize and delegitimize Hinduism and portray Brahmins very negatively. Recently, a movie called Maharaj, directed by Siddharth P. Malhotra and starring Junaid Khan, son of Aamir Khan, was released and that we will be held. And the please either you can raise your hand to ask a question, or you can put your questions in the comment sections, and the questions will be taken one after the other. I welcome Shashank Chakrawarty Ji to start, and I will mute myself. Thank you.
Hello, namaste everyone. So today I'm going to begin with the session of Maharaj Libel case. And first before we go into the case, we must understand from the historical perspective and the chronology of the events that happened in the medieval times in the India, and that was actually followed, from the coming. That was actually then followed by the Mughal Sultanate, then also into the British Empire, where the several attempts were made to trample the Hindu community and the Brahmins, especially the Brahmins, because the Brahmins were the roots of the society, who actually made some of the rules, and based on that, where there were very shastras on the basis of which the dharma was governed. But in order to make the Hindus, but in order to convert Hindus and get them away from the roots and their origin, uh, we were being, several libraries were being destroyed, like we have Nalanda, we have Nalanda University, we have Takshashila University. Several attempts were being made, and also, so let us understand like how all these started to happen. So the number one, it actually started to happen. Let us go to the time of the Chandragupta Maurya. When the India was divided into several Mahajanpads and Janpadas, so where Alexander the Great tried to attack the India because of its rich cultural heritage, and then further it was already protected by Acharya Chanakya, who who actually picked up a boy named Chandragupta from Chandragupta Maurya, which was one of the lowest community known at that times, and then was made king. And then the actually description and the golden age of the India started from then. Then after that we started to grow. Then Buddhism came, and then there were several universities established, such as Nalanda after Takshashila. After the establishments, coming up to the time when Ghaznavi attacked several times to the India. Then after some of the attacks, there was Bakhtiyar Khilji who came and just attacked on the Nalanda University. It was such a brutal attack that all the Shastras and various books were burnt. But however, the Brahmins were able to protect all those Shastras and Dharmas because they actually kept everything in their mind. And then again, some of the books were rewritten, but then we lost a lot of our scriptures, lot of our olden books. So those all events happened, and then after that we had and then after that there were several attempts were made by the Mughal sultanates as well, where the Mughals targeted several mandirs, such as uh, the best example that you can see was Jagannath Puri temple was targeted. Then uh, Kashi Vishwanath temple was targeted several times and was being converted into the Gyan Vyapi mosque. uh, the biggest example is Ram Mandir was also targeted by the Babar. That also happened. So various things happened, but then they were not able to conquer. So after that British came. There is a very famous speech by the Lord Macaulay, so where Lord Macaulay actually says that, when he visited India and he found out that the culture and the people are so rich and so intelligent that we won't be able to conquer the India, and we won't be able to rule over here, because the civilization and their values are totally for the human, but we will have to divide them in such a way so that by thinking by birth they will be Indian, but by their thinking they will be British, and they will be our servants. And that's how the game started. Several Indologists visited India, such as Max Muller and H. Wilson, who started to read some of the Sanskrit texts and took them to the Oxford, uh, tried to demonize tried to demonize the Indian cultural values. That actually happened. And then, but all those Sanskrit teachings that they actually took were actually implemented in the upliftment of the European society. But only those scriptures were also used against Indians to feel them inferior, and showing them that the British values are the highest, and the Indian values doesn't seem like that. So from there they started targeting the Brahmins, and from there they took some of the reformists. So that's how everything began, and one of the biggest example into that falls into it was the Maharaj Libel case. But before we go into it, and that was actually targeted by the Bollywood. But before we go into it, I would like to tell you, like, there were several movies where they have targeted the Brahmins. So the number one is Papi Gudia, which was released in 1996. So where the villain is a child murderer, and the black magic practitioner wears tilak on that, and wears tilak and has Rudraksh. Secondly, there was another movie in 2002 named as Pita, which was uh, which actually used some of the Sanskrit mantras in the violence background, and the crimes. And the person who was killed was Krishna, and they demonized the Brahmins over there as well. Then there is another movie that is known as Ganga Ki Saugandh, uh, in which uh, in which uh, in which they believe the Brahmin, in which it was shown that the people doesn't believe in the untouchability, but Brahmin believe in the untouchabilities, and he actually hates the untouchables. And there is also one of the famous movie that is Ajab Prem Ki Gazab Kahani, in which the Prem Shankar Sharma, a son of Brahmin, started eating non-veg just only because he fell into love with the Christian girl. So there are and another so there is also one of the present movie that is in the Tollywood, that is Annapurni, in which to win a competition, there is a girl who actually belongs from the Brahmin family, starts to read namaz and offer namaz, just only to win a competition, that was just only to cook a biryani. So that is one of the very ridiculous scene that I have actually observed. So let us come to this. Let us come to this Maharaj Libel case. The how so in this Maharaj Libel case, uh, the target was made on the Yadunath Maharaj from the Pushti Marg sect. So who was actually targeted by then some of the reformists known as some of the pseudo reformists known as Karsandas Mulji and Veer Narmad. So because in fact, if you go with their biographies, and if you see their biographies, there were several character where they have accepted some of the mistakes that they have done in their life, that they were also several mistakes on their lives, uh, that was actually related to, they have not number one, that they do not know about the culture, Indian culture, and were and were totally were not aware of the Indian Shastras and Vedas. Number two, they were also into the extramarital affairs, and had some of the instincts towards the towards some of the women who were widow, and who were actually widowed and wanted to marry them as well. So what actually happened in 1862, and it started in the 1858. So when Yadunath Maharaj from uh, when Yadunath Maharaj from the Bombay, he he was a socialist reformer, and during the and before, when the 1857 when the revolt of 1857 happened, so he also helped several people over there who were actually involved in the freedom struggle with the supplies, because none of the kingdoms actually supported Mangal Pandey and various Tatya Tope, various leaders like that, and because they were being suppressed by the British. But over there, Adunath Maharaj helped those people to help those freedom fighters to hide and provide them all the logistics. He was also a socialist reformer who supported the women education. But then there were some of the several things that actually happened between Yadunath Maharaj and Karsandas Mulji, where Karsandas Mulji actually wanted to marry a widow, and at that time, the uh, period was such that in the 1860s, where it was totally marrying a widow was totally against the Shastras. This all actually started with the case of the 1862. So where uh, in the case of 1862, where British used some of the plots, and these reformists who were actually students from the British universities, and these who were the students from the British universities, they were graduated and were actually used by them. So by one of the in which he wrote one of the famous articles in the Satya Prakash, the Light of Truth, English translation, where several opinions were made against the several sects of the Kali Yuga, that actually of the several dharma that actually organized, that actually came in the Kali Yuga. So those were mainly Nimbark Sampradaya, Vallabhacharya Sampradaya was targeted by Mulji, where they called them as a pakhand or a deceitful that they called them as a pakhandi, as the pakhandi dharmas. So where he alleged that the where the several practices were actually made against him, were actually there where the several practices such as charan seva, or several Sanskrit mantras, were actually misrepresented in those articles. And upon those misrepresentation, a case in 1861 was filed by Yadunath Ji Maharaj in the Supreme Court of Bombay, claiming that the article that he wrote was libelous, and he also asked for a damage of rupees 50,000. Because and then the case was actually presided by the British judges Sir Matthew Richard Sauce and Judge Joseph Arnold. And there was one of the scholar from the Oxford University who was called, and his who was actually called was Mr. Wilson, so who was expert in the Sanskrit from the Oxford University in during the time. So what actually happened? In which there is a tradition that actually happens in the Pushti Mark Sampradaya. Uh, where you actually treat Bhagwan as the member of a family. Hota hai, and then we treat him like, their shringars are done and several sevas are being done. Because we call it a seva, not a puja. This is just because we treat Shri Krishna as the member of the family and he's the supreme, because he's the supreme leader. So that is what one of the bhavna that we say in the there. So over there represented in the movie, and there are several uh, which was actually represented in the that was actually represented in a false way. So uh, also where we observe that Karsan Das actually made some of the allegations on Lord Krishna and Gopis, that whatever the Ras Leelas and whatever the Ras Leelas and the Krishna had 16,000 wives were actually false. And if he had 16,000 wives, so the same kind of practice is being followed in the Pushti Marg sect, like, where uh, claim like you have the multiple affairs with the woman, and that is actually by the same mark. So that is not the case. That actually happened because proceedings, these cases were actually misrepresented. So there is actually, when you see during the so they also tried to during that case, uh, there were several things that were actually there. Number one, the Yadunath Maharaj, who was not aware of the English, and as he was not aware of the English, so he was being misguided by those people. The judge was English, lawyer was also English, so several people misguided him. And there were Yadunath Maharaj was actually being trampled by the British Empire, because in order to whatever because in order to because in order to they were stopping them from presenting the facts and exact actually in the Pushtimarg Sampradaya. So in which the several witnesses were called to and the cross examination, and several officers of the court also had the difficulties in the belief understanding. So the British, so what British did, because since they were unable to understand, so British tried to. Uh, so on this, what actually happened in so when the judgment less moral than the pure than ancient ones. Wilson's testimony that was actually made and colonial interest that actually aimed to discredit Hinduism and then promoted the Christianity. So so from this movie we actually observe like there were several instincts that Guru Shishya Parampara, where there several practices were being demonized, were being misrepresented. There we have called Brahma Sambandh Charan. So that is uh, NS Charan. So that is what we call as the seva, and that is actually done by three. Is that is and there are three different kind of ways to have that seva. That is Tanuja, Vittaja, and Manasi. So the Tanuja is second one is Vittaja. That is if you are good with the financial status. So then you can offer him the save the Shringars of the Bhagwan. That is actually based by letting him putting the several or several jewelries onto him. That you actually observe in the mandir of the Pushti Marg. That actually happens in the Nathdwara. And then third one is the you are not meant so that when you are not physically well or you are not even financially well, so you can imagine in your mind like I'm doing something for him, I'm offering him the food. And that is what has been mentioned into it, because in our shastras and in the Bhagavad Puran we also observe. So we also observe like there is a saying that whenever you offer in Kali Yuga, only the prayers done by the mind and by your soul can be considered in the Kali Yuga. So there are so the same Brahma Sambandh mantra and the same type of sevas were actually misrepresented. And so that's how they targeted the Hinduism, and they also and through these means they were actually targeting the women. So like once you target the women, with these in the name of seva, in the name of where the people were actually observing all those obscene scenes that were actually happening into the movie, what ultimately meant to obtain the moksha, such kind of and that was only done by the those all. But when they came to the court, so Yadunath Maharaj totally explained is the meaning of those sevas. So all those facts were actually misrepresented, where the British just give me the answer in yes or no. If you are, put you into the jail. So that's how. So the trampled by the British, where they told we will, where they also trampled them by fear mongering them on uh, by on the basis of telling them like we will jail. So that's how. So that's how the everything was actually turned on and off by the British from the actual facts. And that's how, and that's how the case was actually, and in which that case Maharaj. And and these articles were actually into the times of India during those times, that completely, which was actually against the Pushti Marg, and tried to, they tried to defame, uh, the Pushti Marg and Brahmins as well over there. That was actually a target on the Guru Shishya Parampara, being from all the falsifying statements, or all the false things. We were able to, the Pushti Marg was able to, succeed more, and were able to move ahead with all these paramparas, because whatever false, and if the things were false, they could, these things would not have been existed, they are actually being, because there were several things that were actually made clear to the various devotees. And that's how, and that's how it is going, has been targeted by the Bollywood against the Maharaj. And um, because you have seen in the movie, and that's how the things are actually continuing. So the only conclusion for this is, we have to be ready for the everything, and whatever happens, we must be prepared with all the facts.
We will take questions from the audience. Please raise your hand if you have any question. Put it in the comment section. But so far, I have gotten only one question. So let me start with that. Question is from Dheeraj Shukla ji, and he says that there is an atmosphere has been made against the Brahmin. Counter this. So because counter it, then we are called Manovadis. So the question is, what is the permanent solution of that? That's basically from the Dheeraj Shukla ji.
Okay, so as I mentioned, our Sanskrit, I tried to read our Sanskrit. So when you read the Sanskrit Vyakran, it is actually very vast. So where you can, so there are some
The Brahmin as a community as such remain quite silent. So it is very important for us to produce articles and create a debate on these issues by not only writing articles but having public debates on these issues, because it has taken 200 to 300 years to create this atmosphere, and for which no counter was produced by us. And so it has been accepted both by the government of India as well as from the non-Hindus, etc. Uh, so it's extremely important that a forum or a institution or at some stage that we write these articles on different aspects, challenge the corresponding narration, and provide the proof against them. Unless we do that, and we have the one-off debates with someone who accuses you, will not help. Thank you. Is there anyone else who has a question? Please raise your hands.
Gayatri ji has.
Oh, Gayatri, you said Maitri ji or Gayatri ji? Gayatri ji, please ask your question. Unmute yourself and yes.
Namaste, Rabinder ji. Thank you for organizing, Rabinder ji and others. Thank you for organizing this nice program. And Shashank ji, nice to hear you. First of all, I would like to say Pranam. Today is a very auspicious day. Today is Guru Purnima. So we have a long tradition right from Brahma to Adi Shankara. There is a long parampara which goes like as a guru. We learn from Sampradaya, it goes from Guru to Shishya. That's how we learn orally things. That's how we have been able to even preserve whatever we have till now. So this attack on Brahmins is primarily because we are the intellectual heads of the whole, because the whole system was, Varna system was divided in such a way that one portion goes for the intellectual part, the other, the Kshatriya or the defensive part, the third one is for wealth creation, and the fourth one is for service. And service is nothing less, because today what most of Hindus do is service, is in the service sector. Whether it's like, for example, an architect is very much a service sector. A Shudra by profession, even though they might be born Brahmin. So as far as that goes, and then it is the Brahmins who have, some of the Brahmins who have been on the forefront to demonize Brahmins. Like, for example, today, what we see, of course, I can go much backward, but we have Nambudripad, right? EMS Nambudripad of Kerala, who was the chief minister, who's from communist. He led the total communist movement in Kerala, right? We know what Kerala is, the state of Kerala is in now. Nambudripad is very, very much, a Brahmin, Shuddha Brahmin. Then we have now Sitaram Yechuri, again, a Brahmin, right? CPM guy. Then we have this TM Krishna that you hear. I am sure many of you would have heard, at least South Indians do hear. There are some South Indians here. He's a Carnatic musician, but the way he demonizes the Trinity, the founding fathers of the Carnatic music, right? So, and he plagiarizes also their kirtanas, and then he, instead of Rama, he'll put Jesus in it, and then he'll say Brahmins have been keeping people away from Carnatic music and only giving it to Brahmins. He goes to that extent. So it is the Brahmins. We should look inward too. We have a problem here, right? So we need to sort out our own house for that. So that is an issue. And secondly, most importantly, we are attacked because once the intellectual base goes, the whole edifice falls. Like the whole of the Hindu society is going to fall down if the Brahmins fail. So we need to bring back even dharma, because how many of us even here
Ma'am, what's your question?
Dharma?
Can you please
how do we promote dharma properly and bring back, because that needs to be done, right, proudly. And how do we set our own house in order?
Okay, so previously Ravinder Kaul also mentioned that we should be aware of the Shastras, and we should also try to write our articles and make it public, make it make it to the people, spread them to the people and make them understand like what actually the things are, like that is myth versus reality, what is being spread and what is being presented. So that is the only way that we can do. And another thing is, like, the youth is totally moving towards the social media, so using those social media platforms and those pages, we can ultimately do that. But for that also we will have to, because there are several algorithms coming to the digital point of view when you have to spread these things. So you have to understand the algorithms, you have to optimize the things for the SEO, so that it could reach to the more people, it could get the more impressions, and more people could watch it and actually understand like what the thing actually are. So that is how we can counter it. But then for that we need to have so much of efforts, we need to have a much of efforts, because what I've observed is the opposition that we have is actually a very strong, and we have to be financially strong, and that's how we can tackle it financially and intellectually. On these both bases we can counter them. But then but then there has to be some of these strategies decided step by step.
That's very nice. But how do we even maintain our Veda Pathshalas? Our acharyas today, Gurukuls today are not finding women to marry because nobody wants
Yes.
to become a pujari. What do we do about that?
Yes, because that is actually a problem that everybody is actually observing. Like these things are happening. The only thing this is happening because Brahmins are being getting financially weakened by those particular section of the society by targeting. And especially I've observed, and especially in the states of, it started from the states of Tamil Nadu, and then later on is now also coming to the states of the northern side as well, from southern to northern. That's how it is flowing. So in order to go away with that, the only solution is to be financially stable, to be financially stable. Because however, if we cannot earn money from over India, we have to move abroad, and we have to arrange the money, and then we have to move it into the India and invest it over here. So that the main thing is only money. If you have the money, so then you can control everything.
And that's one more friend of mine said the same thing. I have some people also abroad. But other than that, I want to ask you one last question, please.
Yes,
Do we need to
sure.
become Kshatriyas too? Do we need to
Yes.
assume the role of Kshatriyas to defend our own community?
Yes, because there were yes. So if we see in the before the avatar of Lord Ram, Parshuram came, and there was several attempts were being made uh, by one of the Raja, that is by one of the Raja, that Sahasrabahu. So who was and he was such a courageous king, and he was such a powerful king, that he was being blessed by Bhagwan Vishnu, that he will have the power of the thousand hands and thousand elephants. That's how he came to known as Sahasrabahu. And then uh, he tried to attack Brahmin, and tried to attack on Parshuram family as well. So then over there, from being from a Brahmin family, Parshuram tried to act as a Kshatriya as well, took the Vidya from Bhagwan, from Shankar, and then tried, and then attacked the Kshatriyas 21 times on the earth. And it was such brutal that the whole earth was filled with the ponds of blood of Kshatriya. So that's what has to be done. But over here it doesn't mean that we have to fight like the Parshuram. We have to be intellectual Kshatriyas.
Okay,
We have to fight the financial and intellectual basis.
okay.
And
Pradeep
even
Mishra ji,
today,
can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes, namaste to everyone. Can someone confirm? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yeah. So my question is basically like we are talking about this matter here, and I'm sure many are talking these matters in their circles. But I'm not able to get you know why the media basically are not capable to raise the genuine concern of Hindus in the mainstream media. I'm saying, although they all are Hindus, but they are failed. So sometime are is this that everyone is against Brahmin, or people are separating themselves from Brahmin, or they're thinking that this matter is only to the Brahmin and we don't need to talk it, and it is very dangerous. So what thing can be done so that the Hindu concern, core Hindu concern, can be discussed in the main media.
Okay. So for this, this is actually the thing that we are actually observing currently, and that has been happening. And this is happening because if you see the NCRTs and the several textbooks that actually highlights that the Brahmins did not allow Shudras to perform puja in the mandir and were not allowed to enter into the mandir and were also being treated as untouchables. So those were the things that were actually put on by those people. But then also there are several facts like where recently 101 RTIs were filed against the NCRTs where they completely claim that whatever we talk in the NCRTs are not based on the facts; they are just only our opinions. So such kind of points were actually doesn't get highlighted in in such a good manner, like they highlight several other things on the media. So in order for that also we have to be the only thing is uh, we have to be in the unity, and the unity only comes in the unity should be such a way. uh, it should be similar to that of the Jews. That Jews were being attacked several times, but they are into the unity. So if we will have the unity uh, like we observe in the other sects such as Kshatriyas or Gurjars or various Samaj. So that is how this thing could be highlighted, because I'm seeing everywhere, like because various people are united. So we also have to be united. We have to get united on one principle, that is only for the welfare of the Brahmins, in a way as the Jews are.
Okay. Pradeep Mishra ji has a question.
The next question is from. Do you have some other question, sir?
Pradeep Mishra ji.
Pradeep Mishra ji, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Actually, these are some questions and as well as some suggestions. Just like
No,
our
please
symbol.
confine yourself to the questions, because we have couple of other questions.
Yeah. These things are, very hard to differentiate. Because what can be a question, what can be a suggestion, these are very unified things. Okay, let me go to the question. So the question or suggestion, whatever you say, is just like you have the symbol. And symbol, I think, is Parashuramji. Parashuramji is a scholar as well as a warrior. And here the trouble is, we have forgotten both. We are not very, stressful in our opinions, and we are not very intellectual in our opinions. So we are like meek people. Meek means people are assaulting our beliefs and our character, portraying us in bad, light, and we do nothing. We are barely writing some comments, doing this and that. Where are the protests? Do we do any protests against these films? How many Brahmins have gone to theaters and stopped the screening of these films? So do we have any organization like that type? Remember, in this world or whenever the history began, force has been always a power. And the force only teaches people that you be in the line. If a policeman does not have a stick or a gun, nobody is going to follow his dictates. That is how, Brahmins should do. That's why Parashuramji has a Shastra. And Brahmins have forgotten those things. How many Brahmins have the symbols of their Brahmanship? Just like Shikha and Sutra and Gayatri. These three are the pillars of Brahmanism. How many people do have Shikha? How many people wear Yagyopavit, Janev? And how many people in the morning and the evening do the Gayatri mantra jap? Because without these things, you're not even a Brahman. You're born a Brahman, but you're not a practicing Brahman. Second thing is, how many Brahmins are serious in protest? Speaking online is fine. But when these people don't listen you have to be present there to use your physical strength to stop the screening of that film. Look at Muslims. They just go to theater, burn
Sir,
the
we
theater.
need to keep it short. Pradeep ji, we need to keep it short because there are other questions also. Please.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Pradeep ji, I completely agree with your view. Keeping the shikha and wearing the janau is one of the main thing that every Brahmin should follow, and that is what we are following in the Pushti Marg as well, where we keep all these things. Along with it, we must also tell other Brahmins to follow some of the things such as Sandhya Vandanam, that actually includes giving the Argya to Surya, and then do some of the Upasthans as well, along with the margins. So where we are actually praying to several gods, and in which we ultimately pray for pray to the Surya and Agni to give us the Tej, and also the same Tej should go to our kingdom and the country as well. That is what we actually used to pray. And so once you pray this, so this will actually gives you some of the energy to to tackle and to know about the Dharma Shastras and tackle all those things. So this should be followed by the Brahmins, and this should be and this must be passed on to the generations. So that is what we must do, and these things must go ahead. So yes, there were several protests, and there were several cases were being filed against the stopping the screening of this movie. But then ultimately the thing is, as I have mentioned earlier, that the left wing and their wing is financially very strong. They had the very good lawyers who came from the London, and when the case was in the intermediary stage, was actually called off, was actually put off by those people, by the court, and but however was accepted by the Gujarat High Court. But then over there also, Gujarat High Court uh, ruled against this. They told like this is the freedom of expression, and the movie has to be released. So that's how the movie got released. But the only thing is, like if we are actually protesting before the releasing of the movie, so then ultimately this actually becomes equal to the promotion of the movie. So that's how the movie will get a hype. So that's what every time the mistake we actually do, and those things used to happen, and the movies used to get hit. That's what happened with the OMG2, and several other movies as well.
The next question is from Rohit Sinhaji. He asks that is the situation of abusing Brahmin gurus and conspiring against them any different today than that of the colonized India? Because Brahman gurus, Shankaracharya, are being targeted now, and then for speaking their mind.
Uh, yes, so over here, I would like to say, we are seeing various disputes within the Shankaracharyas as well. There were several statements by some of the Shankaracharyas that I observed today. So where they are fighting on like who's the real Shankaracharya, and that is what we are, and that is where like we are losing, and we are losing the unity, and that's how they're trying to attack our ecosystem. And so once you attack them, so ultimately everything will fall. And we should not let this happen.
The next question is from Samsung SMT733. Please unmute yourself and
At
ask
least let us know the name.
Hi, my name is Vamsi Bishay. Shashank, can you brief the movie of the name Maharaj?
It's Maharaj.
I mean, the story.
It's on Netflix only.
Okay. I mean, I, I mean, earlier I used to watch movies, a lot of movies and web series, but now I am not interested in these type of movies. So, can you brief the title of the Maharaj? I mean, the story in a short form.
Okay, so just in a short, like this is the story which actually there were some of the reformists, pseudo reformists that were used by by the British to
Okay.
uh, target the Guru Shishya Parampara.
Okay.
That was why one of the sect was target, that is known as Pushti Marg. So we have several sampradayas such as Nimbarkacharya, we have a Pushti Marg sampradaya as well, so in which the Pushti Marg was actually targeted. And based on that, few of the articles were written against the Lord Krishna and as well as the practices of the Pushti Marg, so in which the case was filed against the Karsandas Moolji. Um, and once the case was filed, so there were several British people who, in which the judge was British, the Sanskrit expert was British. Instead, none of the experts such as Shankaracharya were called. So those all things were actually happened, and that's how the case was being lost, because
Okay.
everyone was British. Yeah.
Okay. For a small case, they have made this movie for I mean, to bring a false narrative, ultimately leading it to uh, what uh, what to say, to evilize Brahmins.
Yes.
Mm.
And also defame Lord Krishna over there. So I'm going to share
Yes.
you. I will share few of the links for it, so where you can read it.
Okay. Uh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
Tanya ji,
Thank you, Shashank.
next question from Tanya ji. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes, thank you, Rabinder ji and Adarsh ji. So Shashank ji, namaste. And I actually have a few points to put across that when the judgment came out of this case, what I have read according to, this whole case and everything, it was difficult to actually establish that some kind of libel or some kind of things happened, because the courts had no idea that what
Yes.
exactly contains heterodoxy and what is heresy and all that. So then they just moved to the point whether the press has the freedom to write anything or not. Even and here also you see that the judgment, it actually gave the judgment in favor of the plaintiff, which was the Maharaj, in terms of 3 minor pleas. But the only reason because he said all these things were not being able to establish what he has put. But the only thing we have to say is that should we take away the freedom of the press from writing something? So it moved from the libel thing to the freedom of press or not. So here we cannot really say that the case went in the favor of Karsandas Moolji. He was only given that thing because the missionaries were on his side, and it was told that the press has the freedom to write. And then they also wrote some very bad things about Sri Krishna and his this and that, because they had no idea. That is one point. The second thing is that the point about whether talking about it or writing about it or going to court and everything is giving promotion to it or not, that is something I have an opinion contrary to what you just mentioned, for certain reasons. Is because if the Maharaj had not gone against these people and not filed a case, then today we will not be reading that case and seeing that how the colonial machinery was used against the sampradayas and the Brahmins, because the sampradayas had shielded the 1857 bravehearts during their fight. Therefore, the British went against them as as a state policy against the Brahmins, because they were very powerful in shielding and putting up these independence fights against the British. So we have a case here thanks to Jadunath Maharaj Ji for filing that case and standing up for the entire Pushtimar Sampradaya. The second point I want to make here is that Saurabh Shah had launched a book in 2013, which is he himself, he says he comes from the Sampradaya and I've written this book,
Yes.
and it was a
Istri
really,
Kalpana
really,
ki Istri Feri hai.
yes, and a very bad book. You could see the cover of the book and you could make out how 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 bad his thoughts were, where he puts Krishna ji's photo at the back, and there is a
Yes,
Maharaj and a
some
woman,
of keen scenes.
Yes.
Yes.
So here I have heard so many times from many such videos I watched on the YouTube from the Pushtimar Sampradaya, where people were saying that we should have just like we ignored the book and it did not get too much publicity, we should have ignored the film. But you
Film, yes.
see, what is the outcome of this book? There were many plays that were staged in Gujarat. It was being praised as a very good book by certain politicians, and now it came to a stage that a film is being made on it. So therefore, by not protesting also, this has come to this stage. So here you see one thing where at least now, when there were so many online protests and Hindu Janjagriti Committee and Gems of Bollywood, etc., they all came on the ground also and protested. Unfortunately, because this is on OTT, so they couldn't go to theaters and protest.
সব চেঞ্জ করেছো পুরো কাপড়
Okay, I just only have one thing, like the point number 1 and 2 that you actually mentioned in the starting, because of the freedom of press, and the second one that were actually already covered. So, like, can you please let me know about the question? Like, what is the
Yes,
question?
the question is this, that if in case you had, when you say that we shouldn't protest and give publicity, then what should one have done? Because here, when it went to court also, it was based because of these protests, because people were standing up from the Pushti Marg as well. And you
Yes.
see that there is a statistics that has been given out by Amar Ujala that this movie has not been watched in India as
It's
much
not been-
as it is being watched in the Muslim countries. 14 Muslim
Yes.
countries have contributed to its viewership, and that's why it has, gone higher. So there is definitely a different angle to this. The Hindus have boycotted it. They have not watched it. And now the Bollywood will think 10 times before making such movies, because the Pushti Mark has given them a good slap on their face, and the people who have stood up and protested. And it went to court. For at least 10 days, it was stopped from being screened. They lost hundreds of crores. So it is not a failure or not a promotion. This was needed to be given, and it will now make them think. And it was Muslim countries who made it hit. It was not us. This would have been done any which ways, even if you had not protested, it would have been made hit. And you see that many interviews were not being given by the cast, and many the trailer was not released. There was no promotion because of the protests. And here the last part is that the problem is we don't give credit to people when they stand up, and we don't give credit to people when they are doing something also. So I think, in my opinion, the protests are not contributing to any kind of publicity. Nobody in India, they have boycotted it. They have uninstalled Netflix in multiple ways. So I think we need to, as people, at least appreciate those who are standing up for OTT. They cannot go to theaters and protest. It was not released in theaters. That's all I would like you to answer.
Yeah, okay. So if you see that there were various stats that were in the internet, in the Netflix, that were actually released. So where it was actually watched by the movie was actually watched by Indians as well, but mostly they were also watched by some of the communities and some of the leftists. If you see that. So it doesn't mean, like, I haven't said like we should not protest or we should not do that, because ultimately if you are protesting on a movie, so that should be done on a particular basis upon the observations. However, when you protest, so if you see, there was protest actually happened against the Padmavat as well. There were protests that happened against the Bajirao Mastani as well, in which the Bajirao as the Brahmin was actually uh, उनको ने एक आशिक की तरह उनको दिखाया गया मूवी में, और उस आशिक की तरह दिखाया गया. Because of that, the movie got it. They actually the facts were misrepresented, and the same thing actually happened, and the various people actually used to watch. So those are the things that actually used to happen. So we must wait and we must watch. We must wait and we must wait for what things has been represented over there. So once you get about the representation, so then you can counter those movies. Because however, as the trailer was also not they cannot release the trailer over there, because ultimately the best platform was Netflix, because it isn't being checked by the censor board as the other movies used to get checked by the censor board. So those things has to be taken into the observation. So I haven't said like you should not protest, the protest must not happen or something like that. It should happen because that is actually against the Hindu paramparas and uh, against the various Brahmins, and where the several Sanskrit sayings were being converted or being misrepresented. So those things must be protested, which is actually against the dharmas.
Okay. Thank you,
Well,
Shashank.
just one more point. Well, actually, the protests before the movie happened because they all knew that it was based on the book of Saurabh Shah. And they all have,
Yes.
many have read, they know that it is based on this book, and therefore it will definitely be anti-Hindu and anti-Brahmin. Therefore, these protests had happened, and it was unfortunate that the court passed it even after seeing
Yes,
it.
the court passed just only because the same thing, because of the freedom of speech. And
Yes, so there's
yes,
a repetition of the Maharaj Libel case. The same kind of judgment came here also.
yes, the same kind of judgment came here as well. So as I highlighted it over there, during my session, that the case came out just only because of the everything was into the paksha of with the Yadunnath Maharaj, but then all those things were actually being misrepresented, uh,
Yes,
because there were several Indologists were being called, as I
yes,
earlier
and
mentioned.
there's one
Max Muller and several them converted all those Sanskrit sayings into some other meanings.
also this, just like Netflix itself has said that 14 Muslim countries have contributed to the success of the so-called Maharaj,
Yes,
which is a money pumped in. And then of course Padmavat and all these also, their figures were highly pumped, just like Brahmastra and all that.
yes.
So
So
yeah, that
there
is
is
another.
some statistics if you see. So if you see, like, there are being several efforts that are being made to move Hindus away from to move Brahmins or Hindus away from these practices, because the fund is being arranged by some of the countries from the Middle East, that is UAE, Qatar. And once you arrange those funds, so then they used to target the women. So when you target so specific group of women are being targeted on this agenda. So up to the age of 15, they are being targeted on the basis of some boys who actually used to follow the girls and then used to talk with them through the social media basis. And then from 20 to 35, they are being targeted on the basis of these movies. So where in the movies like Maharaj, where you represent the Charan Seva as some another obscene act, and through these act you target the sevas and tell through the songs, oh ladies, just don't go to the seva. So that's how you attack them and you make them away from the Hinduism. And then upon 35, once you are above 35, they are being targeted on the basis of money power. So that's how they used to target the Hinduism, and that's how they used to convert the people. So ultimately it's all an agenda to convert the people and move them away from the Hinduism.
Having said all the points, and thank you for the response, Shashank Ji, I really appreciate and salute all of you who have coming out and speaking about it. We are learning more and more. So thank you so much for that.
I have one question. I mean, not question, but clarity. Somewhere the name came of Saurabh Sai. I just want to know that for what you have taken the name of
Who
Saurabh
is
Sai.
who is speaking, please?
Yeah, Sandeep Mishra. Sandeep Mishra.
Sandeep ji, there are others in the queue. Please let others ask the question first.
I will answer you. I will share some of the links in the group.
The iPhone 38 ji, please unmute yourself.
Please, please.
No, iPhone 38.
You are not audible.
iPhone 38 ji, can you unmute yourself? Geeta ji, I think the name is Geeta. Please, and also, please, also open your video, please.
Can I speak now? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Just a minute, let Geeta ji speak, and then we will come back to you.
Namaste. My name is Geeta Sikkan. I am a Hindu activist, and I'm in Irvine, California. and I have a lot of Hindu friends, just like, all communities. And some of them are actually Gujaratis. And some of them also go to the Haveli Mandir. But when they watched the movie Maharaj, they said, "Oh, we know this is true. We have known about this for a long time, that the young girls were taken to the Guruji and for having sex for the first time." And I was very disturbed by that, even the Hindus don't know the truth. So how do we counter such Hindus who themselves don't believe that we are being targeted as Hindus?
So if you so let them. So first of all, if you want to really know like such things happens or not, we must go over there and we must see like if these things are happening or not. So if because it has always been said during the times of Chandragupta reign, so where Chanakya always used to highlight only one thing: if you have to prove anything, there should be a praman, there should be a proof. But if you don't have any proof, and if you haven't seen the thing with your own eyes, and those things, and whatever, you should actually inspect the things. You should go there, inspect the things. If those things are happening, so then it is true, and if it doesn't happen, so then ultimately it is not true. So the only thing is we must explore the things if it is happening or not. The only exploration can tell you. We
And
cannot
many of
make anyone believe on the basis of the words. Only actions can make them believe.
Yeah, and many of them even say that, "Oh, we watched the movie and it has very good lessons. It's a very well-made movie." Of course, Aamir Khan makes well-made movies, but he's always targeting Hindus. Like in PK
Yes.
also, he made fun of Shivji, he defamed Hinduism. And again now. So I'm just looking for a counter argument that this is not true. How do I show them the evidence that this was not true? Because they say, "Oh, our mothers told us this," and
Like for example, like can you tell me like anything? Hello.
yeah,
Like what kind of things they used to say?
they say, "Oh, they told us that these young girls were taken to the Guru for having sex with the Guru, and they used to watch." I cannot believe that, but they say,
No,
"Oh, we've heard this."
that is all false. That is all false things.
Yeah,
That actually doesn't happen. The things that is actually it was actually in the movie. It was actually being highlighted that uh, that you have to submit it to the once you are married. So then you have to submit it to the guru. It is not guru. So once you are, so you have to submit, and there is a mantra known as Brahma Sambandha mantra, in which we actually submit everything to the God. And who is the God? He is Purushottam. He is the supreme leader. So we treat him as the family, as our family, and we used to do his seva. So it is being said, so like once you submit your everything to the Krishna, then only he makes your life prosperous. So the submitting doesn't means, the submission has to be made through three things. That is, you have to submit your financial things to him. Whatever you buy, you submit it to him, then use it. Number two, you have to by the financial status, whatever the money you have, you submit it to the God, and then you use it for the different purposes. And then that is why number then there is known as tanuja seva, that is done on the physical basis. If you are physically well, you exercise for your body, and you do it for the God. Use it in the seva of the God by cooking the food for him, and then distributing it to the uh, once you cook the food for the God, you serve him, and then those food has to be, that actually becomes the bhog, and that is actually being served to the several people. And those can be people like, uh, to some of the garibs who are actually roaming over on the road, so you can give food to them. That is how it is being utilized.
Yeah,
So
no one argues about that. The
yes,
argument is about this obscene scenes that
yes,
they.
obviously. So that is what I'm telling. It is not to the guru. It is to the God, and that's how you submit everything.
So
So
Geeta ji,
whatever.
I think we should take the question from our last question here, G.S. Krishnamurthy ji. G.S. Krishnamurthy ji, please unmute yourself
Yeah.
and ask the question.
Namaste, Krishnamurthy ji.
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me? Yeah. This is not a question. This is just an observation. You spoke about, with the court case and what happened in 1850s when
60.
when
Yeah.
Wilson or somebody and he raised the question and the British judge was there. It's about Sri Krishna having 16,000 wives. This is being misinterpreted, misquoted everywhere. Actually, there was a war between the two Yadava groups, and Sri Krishna's group killed all the men of the other group, the opposing group. So the women of that group came to him at the end of the war. Look, Krishna, you have killed all our husbands, all our men. What do we do? Then he said, adopt me as your husband. That's what the that's what they say happened. But this is being interpreted and misinterpreted and being quoted often to defame Hindus, defame Brahmins, and that they are doing all this. Yes, we have to protest against these things. Protest is also a form of freedom of expression, freedom of democracy. That's a fact. But it's not being done effectively. Nobody has come out with the book about Sri Krishna's and his story, and especially the 16,000 wives. This being nonsense being spread everywhere, being used and misused and abused by the people, especially the film dump, Bombay film dump. They have been using it because they find it sensational. They find it most palatable for the Christian and the Islamic minds. If they say anything nonsense against Krishna or Rama, they find it very, very interesting to them. That's why they do it. Even Max Muller, when he came here, he was basically a missionary. He translated some of our scriptures into their language. All of them were biased. Now he's being called to explain. All his works have been, been termed as trash. They were all they know it's all untruth. It's all bias. It's come out. Many scholars have come out with very, very scathing attack against Max Muller. There is a Max Muller Bhavan all over the country. Now, after the protest, there is no longer known as Max Muller Bhavan. That has happened. Only when you protest effectively at the national level, at the state level, will these kind of things will come to an end. Otherwise, they will continue to harass not only the Brahmins, the Hindu community itself. Hindus are being harassed because they don't protest. They don't say anything against other religions. They don't write anything against other religions. They simply keep reacting what others have said about Hindus or Brahmins. They themselves don't take any steps to write against Christians or Christianity or Islam. There are so many stories surrounding Islam and Christianity. Why nobody has written anything about them? If you if you on the net, if you Google, you get number of stories, but nothing has been written. Nobody has made any films. These are just the observation. Your presentation is good. I continue to do it because there should be some voice against these kind of things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tanya ji, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Rabinder ji. I just wanted to, because Geeta ji has left, I think. So I just wanted to pass this on for everybody else who is here in the session, that I would request her to please read the Maharaj Libel case. It is on archive.org. And please see that how difficult it was for the British court, even they could not prove what the allegations were. And it is Maharaj against the system. It's not the system against Maharaj, because he had no support. And still he went to court because he didn't agree to those allegations on behalf of all Maharaj. And so please read the libel case, how the entire thing shifted to just freedom of press hona chahiye ki nahi from a libel case. So when the British courts, and they produced 33, 34 witnesses, the British side, and Karsan Das Mulji, and from the Sampradaya side, there were at least 37, 38. And so you please read that case. It is very revealing. And I thank Jadunath Maharaj Ji, even today, for coming to court and giving us this judgment, which is reported, and seeing that how it became totally impossible for the courts to say anything on these allegations, and they just shifted it and became safe by saying that freedom of press should be continued, no matter what. So this is what I would like to say. Please read that book. And जो भी ये opinions निकल रहे हैं लोगों के कि ऐसा होता था, ये सौरभ शाह की किताब पढ़ के ही हो रहा है, unfortunately. So that is something I just wanted to put across. I would like to hear Shashank Ji's opinion on that.
Yes, I completely. So what I would like to say, like instead of reading through those books, I would like to say the people should, obviously they must go with the Maharaj Libel case, but there should be the things like, if only reading through the books, it doesn't, it doesn't make you come to the conclusion. It will only, if you haven't observed the things through your own eyes, you should actually go and observe. Because if you believe like such things are happening, so you must go and observe. Because अफवाहें तो हर कोई उड़ाता है, उसको जाके एक बार एक्सप्लोर करना चाहिए. Because the same thing that we have observed in our elections, that एक अफवाह फैलाई गई कि मोदी गवर्नमेंट जो है आएगी तो संविधान खत्म कर देगी. एज अ रिजल्ट उनकी सीट्स जो है गिर गई. तो वही जो चीज़ है, people must explore it. I must come. They are most welcome into the Pushtimark community. They are most welcome, and they must explore like what is actually the thing is and how the seva is being actually offered to the god. So only once you are aware of the Pushtimark, then only you will be able to go through the things and understand the reality. So that is all real versus reality.
Yes, and with this, these comments, I would like to thank Shashank Ji for being patient and taking all the comments and questions from the people and responding to them. And thanks everybody for attending this talk. Thank you very much again. With that, I will sort of close the session.
Sure, thank you.
Adarsh Ji, do you want to say anything? All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye. You are on the mute, Adarsh Ji.
Let's terminate this, and thank you everyone. Thank you to the audience for patient listening. And thanks a lot, especially to Shashank Ji. And also you, that you came in a very short notice because there was a mess up. And thank you, Shashank Ji. Thank you, Tanya Ji, who made very relevant points. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm with an enlightened speaker and learn again. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.